first seminar venue here. We have Gabrielle Marien from Toulouse telling us about glassy physics and Anderson localization things.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like first to thank you for your kind invitation. I did a postdoc some years ago at SPEC with Jean-Louis Pichard, and many of the ideas and methods that I learned from him, I've used them in this work. So this work deals with two important mechanisms for ergodicity breaking in disordered systems. So Anderson localization for quantum systems and spin glass physics for classical systems. And there have been only few analogies between them. I will review one on which I've worked recently. So the Anderson transition on random graphs of infinite dimensionality. And then I will speak about the new glassy properties that one can observe numerically in Anderson localization at 0 temperature and in infinite dimensionality. So I will come back to that. So first, an introduction. So Anderson localization is a key mechanism for ergodicity breaking in quantum systems, quantum disordered systems. For example, a paramount example is the insulating state of matter. Here I've represented the evolution of the resistance as a function of temperature in ultra-thin films of bismuth. And when the thickness decreases, the effective disorder strength increases. And what you observe clearly is superconducting behavior, transition to a superconducting behavior with 0 resistance at low temperature to an insulating behavior at sufficiently strong disorder. Another important example is multifractality, which happens at the metal insulator transition. And here it is characterized experimentally through large spatial fluctuations of local density of states that you can see here, which are measured through STM, scanning tunneling microscopy. And another example is the absence of thermalization in many-body closed systems through the effect of many-body localization, which has been studied experimentally with cold atoms recently. Spin glass physics is another key mechanism for ergodicity breaking in classical systems. Here I have illustrated the difference between a paramagnet, a ferromagnet, and a spin glass. And in particular, in a spin glass, you have a total magnetization, which is 0, but the so-called Edwards-Anderson order parameter, which is non-zero. And what it tells us is that the spins are frozen into a very complicated configurations of spins, which seems random. So spin glass physics has led to many theoretical breakthroughs, such as replica symmetric breaking, illustrated here, and has found important applications, for example, in optimization or in biology. So there have been only few analogies drawn between these two paradigms of disordered systems. One important example, which has been studied a lot in the past years, is the problem of the electron glass, which arises in strongly localized systems in condensed matter at very low temperature, and the transport mediated by phonon is through variable range hopping. And in this regime, typical glassy effects such as slow relaxation and aging has been observed. So here it is represented a kind of stress experiment, aging experiment, where you perturb your system applying a gate voltage which is different from what is at equilibrium, V2, for a certain time TW, and then you measure the signal, and what you measure is that first the conductance increases sharply just after you have turned off this V2, and then it decays extremely slowly, logarithmically slowly, and with a dependence on TW, which is non-trivial. Here you have a scaling T over TW, which means that the system has not equilibrated in the time TW. Okay? So I will not deal with this electron glass problem because it's quite well understood now. Another analogy where, which is more or less understood now is the Anderson transition in random graphs. So there has been recently a very strong debate about the nature of, so Anderson transition is a metal insulator transition, okay? Insulate here, the insulating phase, it's where the states are localized through Anderson localization, and the metallic phase, the states should be delocalized, so you should have transport. And there has been a debate recently about the nature of the delocalized phase, whether it is non-ergodic or not. And so, as you can see, there have been a lot of papers with many authors also in different boxes, as you can see. And okay, and I will tell you a little about this story. So this work has been done in collaboration. So this work on the Anderson transition on random graphs has been done in collaboration with Rémi Dubertrand from Regensburg, John Martin from Université de Liège, Olivier Giraud from LPTMS, Bertrand Georgiou from LPT in Toulouse, and Ignacio Garcia Mata from Mar del Plata in Argentina. And so historically, the interest in this beta lattice, so random graphs, it means graphs which simulate effective infinite dimensionality, okay? And the simplest graph which emulates this is the beta lattice, which is a tree without loops, and which has a constant connectivity. Each site has a constant number of neighbors, and there are no loops, so it's a tree. And in such a tree, Abouchacra, Anderson, and Fowles realized that there is you can write an equation for the local elements of a green function, which is self-consistent and which is exact. There is absolutely no approximation, and from this self-consistent equation, then you can do a lot of predictions. Okay, so so this is just the local elements of your Green's function. This is some mathematical formula, the Schur complement formula, which is exact. Here, what is important is that the tilde means that this element of a Green function corresponds to the Hamiltonian H, where I have taken out the row and column I. So you have a matrix. Generally, for Anderson model, it's a three-diagonal matrix with random numbers on the diagonal. Here, it's more complicated because it's a tree. Okay, but what is important is that in your matrix, you take off this row and column I, and you have this. And since when you take off one site, because it's as if you take off one site. When you take off one site in a tree, you live with independent branches. They do not speak to each other. They are completely independent. The result of that is that you have a self-consistent equation for these matrix elements. Okay, for the Green's function. And this is particularly interesting because in Anderson localization, the local density of states is related to these matrix elements, these Green function elements, and you can say whether you are in a localized or delocalized phase from basically the imaginary part of this term, because when you write it, when you write it down like this, so if the imaginary part of GII is finite, then when you Fourier transform, it means that the amplitude at site I will decay exponentially with time, tau, with a characteristic time tau. And so it means that if you decay, it means that you are delocalized and you will couple to. And so if tau is finite, you are delocalized. If tau infinite, you have no transport and you have localization. And from this approach, they predicted an Anderson transition. And in the localized phase, there is an analogy with a statistical physics model, which is very similar to spin glass problems, and which is called directed polymer. So you just start from this equation, and in the strong disorder regime, so you write, so what we are interested in is in the imaginary part of this element. And in the strong disorder limit, the real part, you can assume that it is more or less epsilon k. It's a good approximation. So your on-site energy, because it dominates the fluctuations. And what you get is some recursion for the imaginary part, which has this form. And this is exactly the same as what you would find. So this is the same as the partition function for a directed polymer on a tree. So if you don't know what it is, a directed polymer, it's an elastic problem with in a random medium. And so the random energy, on-site energy, is here, and here you have the weight. And on a tree, you can write an exact recursion formula for this partition function. So it's a classical problem. And it happens, and it was studied by many people, but in particular Derrida and Spohn. It happens that this system has a glassy phase. So the way you can see that is that you have a traveling. So the basic solution of that. So here Vk you can relate it to this. Let's say you take beta equals 1 and exponential Vk equals epsilon k square. Okay. So it's a directed polymer with some distribution of the on-site disorder, which is a little strange, but okay. And the solution of this problem is through the analogy with traveling wave. So what you find is that the logarithm of the imaginary part as a function of the number of recursions of your iterations, so the depth of your tree, okay? I mean, it has a component which is deterministic. It's minus Vt, so it shifts. And you have the fluctuations and the distributions of this part, the log Yt, small yt, it's always the same, okay? So it's a kind of traveling front, okay? And this Yt has a power law tail for large Y. Okay, there are some selection rules for V and beta. They are coupled, and this is given by this relationship. And when the tail, which is selected by the dynamics, it's a dynamical problem, the tail which is selected is smaller than 1, what happens is that you have a large distribution, and what happens is that you can also make a replica analysis, and what you find that you have replica symmetry breaking. So which means that the directed polymer, the elastic system that you are looking at, will explore only few branches of order 1 instead of the exponentially many at disposal. Okay? And what happens is that in the localized phase of the Anderson transition, you are always at beta s smaller than 1/2, and exactly at the transition, you are beta s equals 1/2. So you are always in a replica symmetry breaking phase. So the next question came whether the delocalized phase also could have some glassy properties, some non-ergodicity. And it was realized soon that in a tree, you can observe multifractal statistics also away from the Anderson transition, usually you observe multifractality only at the transition, metal insulator transition. Here you observe also off criticality, and in particular in the delocalized phase. And recently it was using the supersymmetry approach. So these people showed that for a finite tree with open boundary, at the root of the tree, the moment of a wave function, so this is the amplitude of the wave function at the root, so in the center of your tree, of your finite tree, you take the Q moment, and it scales as a power law, and this is typical of multifractality, okay? You should be careful because it depends on this type of problem. It depends crucially on the distance to the boundary, and in particular what they showed is that it is localized at the boundary, and so you have strange properties. And other people used this recursive approach that I discussed in a strange inverted order thermodynamic limit. And they found also a multifractality in the delocalized phase, so for W smaller than WC, and with replica symmetry breaking, which persists in the delocalized phase. So now the last question, I mean, the most important reason why people were interested in this Anderson transition recently on random graphs is because of the analogy with many-body localization, because in many-body localization you can see that, for example, you take a paradigmatic model of where you can see many-body localization, this Heisenberg chain, and then you consider with disorder along the z-axis, and there is these couplings and interactions between the spins in X, Y, and Z, and you consider the amplitudes of your many-body states in some state basis, for example, the SZ. And you can see that as a problem, an Anderson localization problem on some complex graph, which is the Hilbert space. So this SZ basis, okay? The Hilbert space associated to this model. And so this complicated graph has some properties. In particular, it has many loops, and it has an average coordinates which scales with the system size. So okay, but people thought that it was somewhat similar to random graphs. So graphs which are not trees with a constant branching number and no loops and a boundary, but they have many loops and no boundaries, and the important characteristic is that the average node separation scales logarithmically with the system volume, so the number of sites. So you can see this as the infinite dimensionality limit of this scaling that you have usually. Okay, so let's look at, so the next question is whether there is a non-ergodic delocalized phase in random graphs with loops and without boundaries, and they have a locally tree-like structure. And the answer is non-trivial. I mean, so basically, there was this theory by Mirlin and Fyodorov in '91 predicting an ergodic delocalized phase, but people thought that, based on numerical observations, that and this analogy with the beta lattice, that it was not necessarily true. And here you have, so what is represented is the logarithmic derivative of P2. I2 is P2. So it's the second moment of your wave function, which is called the inverse participation ratio. And they try, so this should be a kind of D2, this logarithmic derivative, and this should converge. These people argued that it converges to a constant value, which is this D2 at infinity, with some ansatz. They had some upsatz of the convergence of this data to infinite system size. And they said that the result of this analysis is that in the delocalized phase, you have a D2, which is non-zero, non-equal to 1. 1 would be the ergodic limit, and non-equal to 1, and so which means non-ergodic delocalized phase. Non-ergodic meaning that the wave function lies in a portion of your system which vanishes at the thermodynamic limit. Okay? Because normally you lie on n sites, and here you lie on n to some power sites with a power which is smaller than n. Okay, so the ratio between the two goes to 0. Okay, and but other people took exactly the same data. Mu is exactly the same quantity. And they say, no, it's not true because this quantity has a minimum and then it increases. And they assume that it increases up to 1. And they say, okay, I have a characteristic scale, and beyond this scale, I am ergodic. So what we did, so we looked at this random graph system, which is a small world network. So what you do is you take a 1D lattice, you add long-range links with a certain probability p. Okay? And for p equals 0.5, you have exactly k equals 2, the branching number. So each site will have three neighbors. And for p equals 0, you have a 1D limit. So each site has 2 neighbors. Okay? And you can check that the diameters so the largest distance between 2 sites scales logarithmically with n. And it has a locally tree-like structure. Okay, and so what we used is so we did exact diagonalization of very large sparse matrices, millions of sites. So it's difficult because it's in the middle of the spectrum, as for MBL. So you're not looking at the ground state properties, but really at where you have a lot of density of states. So what you can use is the shift invert method, which amounts to diagonalize the Green's function, and you know how to do that. And the result is that you get 16 eigenfunctions closest to E equals 0 and many disorder realizations. And what you compute from that is the moments of your wave function's amplitudes, PQ, which are defined here. So you sum over all your sides, these are the wave function amplitudes, and you take the Q moment. And for a multifractal problem states, what you should find is some power law behavior. So system size to some power tau q, or equivalently system volume to some chi q with chi q tau q divided by d in finite dimension. And the multifractal dimensions dq are written like this. So tau q divided by q minus 1. And generally what you find for a metal, so it's ergodic, so dq is always d. And for an insulator, the volume occupied by your state is of order xi to the d. So it's the dq is 0 for q large positive and infinite for q negative. And multifractality means you have an infinite number of multifractal dimensions, dq. Okay, and if you do that on our random graph, what you obtain for different disorder strengths and as a function of system size n, system volume, the number of sites, is this. Okay, so this is the raw data for the average value of P2, for example, for certain value of P, which is quite low. So the average branching number is 1.12 in our case. So first you have to, from such type of data, you have to have a criterion for the critical behavior, to say where is the transition. So in infinite dimensionality, you know that the system volume scales exponentially with the linear size of your system. And so what I wrote before, sorry, here, this L to the minus tau q, you can replace L by log 2n to the tau 2, which gives you this dn. dn is log 2n. And you can see that for a certain value of disorder, here 1.6, you have a very good agreement, P2 as a function of log 2n, so it's a log-log scale. And okay, so of course, you don't have the variation for a large range of values, but you have a good agreement with that. And you can understand this as what I said is that there is an analogy between Anderson localization and directed polymer physics. And directed polymer physics, when it is in this replica symmetry breaking phase, what I told you is that it explores only few branches. And few branches, it's log n sites. So okay, because you have exponentially many sites in your graph. And so exactly at the transition, this picture seems to say that you are delocalized on this rare branch. Okay, and in top of multifractality, and this is compatible with predictions that chi2, the exponent in front of n, should be 0 at the transition in finite dimensionality. Okay, now what we use is finite size scaling, because normally to do properly, to do proper extrapolation to the thermodynamic limit, you should not use, unless you have good theoretical understanding, you should not use ansatz, but you should use finite size scaling. So assume, for example, that there is a single parameter scaling in this problem, and then try to extrapolate to infinite size. And this is the way we do it. So we assume that PQ is a single parameter scaling as a function of dn over xi. So xi is the localization length, exactly like as in finite dimension. And what you see is that all the data collapse onto one single curve, which works well. Okay? Now, you can do the same in the delocalized phase. And what you find is that the collapse does not work at all. I mean, the curvature of the different data does not match. I mean, you see that it is too strong. So you cannot, the best collapse does not work. I mean, it gives you, numerically you would say there is no finite size scaling working here. And it's a pity because if you assume that you have this linear scaling, what you obtain as an asymptotic behavior here at infinite size is an asymptotic multifractality, n to the minus q minus 1 divided by xi. You can show it using some scaling arguments. Okay, but in this infinite dimensionality, you can have two types of scaling: linear scaling with system size and volumic scaling, because the volume scales exponentially. So the ratio of the volumes is not the same as the ratio of system size. Okay? And so if you try this volumic scaling, you find a perfect collapse. And this tells you that you have an ergodic state at thermodynamic limit, because you can use that. You can use scaling arguments and find that. We explain it in the article. And from that, you can compute the critical exponents, and the values that we find are compatible with the theory of Fyodorov and Mirlin. So in particular, the correlation volume diverges exponentially with WC minus W to the minus kappa, and kappa equals 0.5. And the critical exponent in the localized phase is 1. Okay, and we find universality. We change the p, the fraction of long range hoppings, and we find always the same scalings and critical exponents. And what is beautiful is that very, very recently, colleagues from LPT in Toulouse did the same type of study for many body localization. So they take these excited many body states. They compute the the entropies which correspond to the moments like this on a certain state basis, which is the SZ, if I remember well, here. And what they find is that in the delocalized phase, they find a volumic scaling with an asymptotic ergodic behavior. And in the localized phase, they find a linear scaling. And in their case, this linear scaling gives, if you work a little the scaling arguments, gives you asymptotic multifractality. So, okay. So these are the conclusion of this part. So as I said, for the beta lattice, you have a localized and a delocalized non-ergodic phase with glassy properties, but it seems that in random graphs, according to our observations and analysis, you have a rather ergodic phase, and this seems to be also the case in the MBL transition. Now I jump to, so what I talked about is the analogy between Anderson localization and glassy physics in this infinite dimensionality limit and at t equals 0. And now I will look at transport. So I did not talk about transport. I will look at transport properties at t equals 0, so fully coherent, different from the electron gas problem, and infinite dimensionality d equals 2. So I've computed the zero temperature conductance through a 2D Anderson model, which is represented here. So it's a 2D scatterer with on-site random energies and hoppings which are equals to 1. And I attach this 2D Anderson model to leads to compute the conductance in this Landauer-Büttiker approach. So either 1D semi-infinite contacts, which are attached at the middle, or wide leads with the same width as the system. And the conductance can be efficiently calculated numerically through the Fisher-Lee formula. So what you need is to compute the Green's function of your scattering system. And here gamma is the imaginary part of the self-energies of the leads. And the Green function, you can compute it efficiently numerically using the recursive Green's function approach, but I do not detail. So I computed it for large systems, many samples, but before going to the results, I wanted to recall the known arguments for the analogy between this Anderson localization problem and directed polymer physics. So in this regime, what you need to know is the elements of a Green function between a point A from the left lead and a point B from the right lead. And in the strongly localized regime, so at strong disorder, you can make what is called the locator expansion. So you can write this Green's function as the product of these terms, EF minus epsilon I. So EF is the energy that you are looking at in your transport, and epsilon I are the on-site energies. Here, the product is all the sites belonging to a certain path P, which goes from A to B, and it can have loops and everything. And here is the sum over all the paths. Okay? And okay, this is an approximation, and in the strongly localized regime, you can make a more stronger approximation, which is the forward approximation. So basically, when in the strongly localized regime, the product of this term, the strength of a path, the weight of a path, will decrease exponentially with its length. So you can restrict to directed paths which go in this direction, always from A to B. And then you map to the directed polymer problem, where I have written the partition function. So it's the sum over all directed paths, the product of I, and then exponential minus beta Vi. And with Vi, the on-site energies, which are the log of this difference, and beta set to 1. And from this analogy, which is a strong approximation, and we don't know the status, you can infer a certain number of fluctuation properties for the conductance, which were verified very precisely numerically recently. So what you have realized is that the logarithm of the conductance is should be equivalent to the free energy of your dielectric polymer. And so it should scale like, so it should decrease linearly with system size, which gives you exponential localization, okay? But the fluctuation terms scales like L to the theta, with theta equals 1/3 exactly known in 2D, and chi should have the Tracy-Widom distribution. And moreover, you have different universality classes which depends on the leads, wide or narrow, that I told you. And this was verified. I mean, they observed the good correspondence between the symmetry classes. So it seems that the analogy between directed polymer and Anderson localization seems to work perfectly for all the checks on the fluctuations of the conductance. But these properties of directed polymers are not all the properties of this system. I told you that it's a kind of baby spin glass, and it shows different characteristic glassy properties. In particular, it shows pinning of the optimal path, and avalanches. So pinning. In 2D, it is always in this glassy phase. So the path is always pinned, and it makes a global optimization on the disorder landscape to optimize this energy cost, the disorder cost, so because of this global optimization, it will wander, and the wandering exponent is let's say the variation of x as a function of the number of iterations that you have here. And you should scale like a power law t to the 2/3 with a certain exponent, which is called the roughness exponent. And this exponent is larger than the random walk exponent, 1/2, because of this optimization through the disorder landscape, okay? And also, it makes this optimal path is pinned and makes avalanches when you study the response of a single sample to a certain force, a certain perturbation. It will remain frozen in some configuration and then jump suddenly, if you pull it, for example. Then jump suddenly and then remain completely frozen with these plateaus, and then jumps, etc. And the size of the jumps have some characteristic height, etc. A third glassy property of this phase is the chaos. So chaos was predicted for spin glasses. It means that you have these glassy states are extremely fragile versus a perturbation, a global perturbation. And what it says is that if you take two replicas, which are nearly, and you perturb infinitesimally one replica with respect to the other, at the thermodynamic limit, you will have vanishing correlations between the two. And this was observed. This was predicted for finite-dimensional spin glasses, but this was observed and found analytically for directed polymers. So here you change the disorder configuration of replica B with respect to A. You take exactly the same disorder plus some perturbation, which has a strength delta, which is very small, and you compute the correlation function between the free energies, and you study how this correlation function of these two replicas decrease with system size. And what you find is a scaling behavior. So it's a scaling function of L divided by the so-called overlap length, which diverges with some exponent, etc., etc. Okay, so what I wanted to do is to see whether, I mean, since the analogy with directed polymer physics seems to work well in the Anderson localized phase, whether we have these properties in Anderson localization. So first, it is possible to image directly the paths taken by transport. So in the strongly localized regime, what was assumed is that transport is strongly inhomogeneous and follows these directed paths of directed polymer. So you can image them using a method of Marcos and before Jean-Louis Pichard. So the idea is that you compute the conductance of your sample, and then you take a site, and you change the energy of the on-site energy at this site to epsilon I to minus epsilon I. So you make a local perturbation, and you plot the conductance with this change, the global conductance with this change, minus the unperturbed conductance divided by the unperturbed conductance as a function of the site where you. And this is very similar to scanning gate microscopy, which is known in experimental mesoscopic physics. So it's a scanning probe where you take an STM, you charge the tip, so it makes a local gate, it makes a local perturbation, and what you plot is the difference of conductance with the perturbation and without. And what these people showed is that from this you can observe the electron flow. And indeed, if you go back to the directed polymer analogy, you can see this as the response of the free energy to a local change of your on-site potential. And this gives, in this case of directed polymer physics, exactly the probability that the directed polymer passes through the site I. Moreover, what I have checked is that this HGM approach, where you see these paths, corresponds beautifully to the map of the local density of currents. So what gives the electron flow is the local density of currents. This is the definition. And here you can compute it. I have computed it using the quant library, but it has a perfect correspondence. So it's two different samples here, and it corresponds each time to the case. Okay, so now you can see what I will try to convince you is that you can see pinning and avalanches. So pinning means that you stay when you change a parameter, and here I change the energy. So I have EF, which goes from minus 0.4 to 0.4. And I change the energy, and I stay in the same configuration, and sometimes I jump to a very different configuration. It's exactly that. From minus 0.15 to 0, I nearly don't move. And I observe this plateau for the final. So here it's at x equals 51, so it's only this data, and you see this beautiful, this plateau, very sharp. And then you jump to another configuration, which is here, and which corresponds to this path, which is very different. Okay, so so these are the plateaus and the jumps for different system sizes. So this is not average. This is a single disorder configuration. This is microscopic point of view. And you can look at the average position, average final position of your path, which is plotted here as a function of EF. And you see these plateaus and the jumps. And the typical scale of the jumps is L to the 1/2, which is expected from directed polymer physics. Then you can compute also this delta y. You remember this delta x as a function of t to the zeta. Zeta should be 2/3. Here it's delta y as a function of L. And these are the numerical data, and this is the prediction 2/3 from directed polymer problem. So it works quite well. And finally, the chaos. So I study chaos with a perturbation of a disorder configuration. So I take two replicas, one with this configuration and another one with a perturbed one with strength delta. Epsilon and epsilon prime I have exactly the same normal distribution with mean 0 and standard deviation W. And from this formula, also epsilon delta has the same distribution, so it's exactly the same disorder on average. It's exactly the same strength of disorder between the two replicas. It's just that they are strongly correlated, and you compute the correlation function between the logarithm of the conductance, because the logarithm of the conductance corresponds to the free energy in the directed polymer problem. And what you observe is that for small delta, you have data here, so the two replicas are strongly correlated, and for large delta, they are almost not correlated. And you have a changing behavior between the two, and you can use Van-Edsa scaling and find this overlap length such that all these data are collapsed onto one single scaling curve, and the overlap length diverges here as a function of delta, and I will analyze the exponents after. Okay, so in directed polymer physics, you can use what is called droplet scaling theory to predict the way this overlap length diverges. And so I tried to do that in the localized phase. So the idea is that you compare the energy cost. So you make a perturbation in your two replicas, and you compare the energy cost of staying in the same configuration and the free energy gain to jump onto another configuration. And the energy cost is written here, so it's just you are on the same path. You have these on-site energies. These are the energies of the directed polymer, so the log of... so I take... we had log of EF minus epsilon I in the locator expansion. I take EF equals 0, and I take absolute value because I don't know how to adapt this argument for complex on-site energy VI. You do that, you compute, so what you get is this random variable. You can show that it has a mean, which is this log of square root 1 plus delta square, and a standard deviation with square root of delta. So what you get is delta E, which scales like square root of delta L from the central limit theorem. And what you know also is that to jump to another path, what we will gain is of the order of L to the 1/3, because the fluctuations of free energy is 1/3. So you compare the two, and since they don't have the same power in L, one will win at small scale, and the other one will win at large scale. So Xi overlap is when the two of the same order. And it's so what you find is Xi overlap is delta to the -3. When L is much smaller than Xi overlap, delta E is much smaller than delta F. You are in the same path, and the other way around. And the red points correspond to this directed polymer problem with log of absolute value of epsilon, and it agrees quite well with this simple scaling argument prediction. But one striking observation is that for Anderson localization, taking into account interference effects, etc., when you decrease disorder, you observe that the divergence of the overlap length is smaller and smaller. The scaling functions do not collapse. The divergence is smaller and smaller, which means that the fragility, the chaos, at small disorder is much stronger than at strong disorder. And at small disorder, this is a completely different physics which happens, because at strong disorder, you don't have this Anderson localization. If you have a small systems, if you have L much smaller than your localization length, you have weak localization. And so in the weak localization regime, the conductance is given by the interference between many multiply scattered paths. And what makes the fragility is now the dephasing between the paths, between the change of the phases between the two replicas. So you can understand this as follows. When you change the free energy, you change as EF to plus omega, you will induce a dephasing which is omega Tp divided by h bar, where Tp is the time to travel the path P that you consider. And in the diffusive regime, Tp scales like L square, so that you find a Xi overlap which is omega to the minus 1/2. These are data for chaos when I change EF to EF plus omega, and you observe this at small disorder. So this works. And now, when you make a random change, so two replicas where you change the random configurations slightly, instead of having omega Tp, now you will have delta square root of Tp, because you can have signs which alternate, and so it's just a central limit theorem, okay, square root of Tp. So what you find is Xi overlap delta to the minus 1, and this is this behavior which works quite well with numerical data. Okay? Now, it is interesting because you can, this new glassy point of view of Anderson localization gives a new picture for this transport in the localized regime. Before, there was these fluctuations of the conductance which is in perfect agreement with directed polymer physics, so you could think that it is only directed polymer physics. But what happens is that it's not really that. It's a coarse-grained picture of these things. So you have directed polymer paths, but they have a transverse size which is Xi. And below, inside this path, so the path is quite large if Xi is large. And inside, quantum interferences play a crucial role. But if you look at the fluctuations of the conductance, you don't see these fluctuations, these effects, quantum interference effect, because weak localization, what it gives is universal conductance fluctuations, which is the sigma of G is of order 1. It's a constant. Whereas directed polymer physics, it gives you sigma of log G, L to the 1/3. So L to the 1/3 wins always, and you always only observe directed polymer physics, glassy physics. Whereas here, the fragility due to weak localization is stronger, much stronger than glassy physics, the directed polymer physics, so that you see this importance of quantum interference inside these directed paths. So it's a coarse-grained picture, really. And you have a crossover between the two, so for at strong disorder, you will observe only this directed polymer chaos, and at small disorder, only weak localization. Okay, so briefly, possible experimental observations. So, of course, condensed matter systems with scanning gate microscopy, but it's very difficult to get into the localized regime with this approach of this local probe approach. Another type of system where Anderson localization was characterized in a controlled way is cold atoms. And recently, there was some new experimental apparatus which allow to study the conductance, the mesoscopic physics of cold atoms, where you split an atomic cloud in two parts, and you look at the transport between these two baths. And they were able to induce some disorder inside this region, and also they devised a kind of scanning gate microscope for this type of system. Also, one could imagine to study replicas between cold atoms. This was done to study the Berezinski-Kosterlitz-Fowles transition in this paper in the group of Jean Dalibard. And they observed interference signature between these two replicas. And so this is my conclusion, but I've spoken a lot. Just to say that the perspective of this work is rather towards interactions. So whether these glassy properties survive in the presence of interactions, for example, and to use this kind of approach to characterize the Bose-Glass phase, where the glassy properties of this Bose-Glass phase are not so much discussed in the literature. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. We have time for questions. Yes?
When you have these paths, you compute the conductance at 0 voltage,
Yes.
Would you have a guess about nonlinear conductance phenomena? Because I'm an experimentalist. I've studied strange things during my PhD 25 years ago. So it was about Anderson localization also. And so we had quite appealing results, experimental results, about nonlinear effects, and we had used things about directed paths and things like that. So, do you have any guess about what happens, for example, when you take your path and you increase the voltage? Can you have something like hysteretic behavior or something like that?
What I was the only thing that I'm thinking of is whether you could you could have the equivalent, but it's not in time, but the equivalent of weightings and things like that when you increase the voltage difference. But I don't know. No, to be honest, I have no clue. Yes.
I guess that you are using equation
to get the conductance? No. It's really a Landauer-Buttiker formula, so it's very simple. I mean, it's yes. So it's it's yes. So the nonlinear response is much more difficult to get. Yes, but without interactions, it should be done. I mean, it should be.
And do you have something new about the kind of polemics that have been that appeared, I would say, 10 years ago between people saying that spin glasses are chaotic in temperature, and it was Yoshino, I guess, and people saying that, and they were more in favor of droplet interpretation, and people saying that we need to account for this behavior by using RSB.
So from this work, absolutely not, because I mean, changing the temperature. I mean, in directed polymers, I think that chaos in temperature is can be observed, and I don't think that there is any debate, no. But it's much more simple. It's much simpler than in the spin glass problem. And Anderson localization would correspond to that, but in our case, I mean, changing the temperature in the directed polymer vision, it's as if changing the disorder distribution. No? Because let's say the ratio between the strength of your disorder to the temperature, it's so in this directed polymer problem. So I'm not sure it is really, I mean, here we will not, I'm not speaking about finite temperature transport at all. I mean, finite temperature in Anderson localization gives you something completely different. It's coupling to phonons, and then you have decoherence effects, and it's completely different. And it's rather the electron glass limit. I am at 0 temperature, no interactions, very simple physics. The simplest limit.
Very last point, I wonder, can you say a little more on what you might expect to see with the Bose glass, or what kind of calculations you intend to do?
Yes, so what actually we did some preliminary numerical studies. I just wanted to, I mean, the Bose glass is a localized phase, and there are some works by Cécile and Thomas Garel where you can take a model for your superfluid Bose glass transition, and in the strongly localized regime, you can do this analogy to directed polymer physics, because you can make perturbations in hoppings, okay, and you will have these paths and the directed paths which contribute to the most, etc. And you can understand that there were subsequent papers by Markus Müller where you can understand some properties of this Bose glass phase from this analogy. Okay, And if you have this analogy, then maybe you have exactly the same kind of physics. It's much more involved to study numerically, because you should study a 2D interacting problem. So you can do that with Quantum Monte Carlo. But what we have done is in 1D, you can study, for example, the equivalence of these glassy states. Ask what are the equivalent of these paths. So in 1D, it cannot be paths because it's only 1D. But so there is this random singlet phase, but maybe you know, and for some type of disorder, the Bose glass is somehow equivalent to this random singlet phase. And so what we find is chaos in certain observables. So you take two replicas, you make a perturbation, you see the decorrelations of the two replicas with exactly the same phenomenology. But you can see also these avalanches of your random singlets that you build in this from, for example, strong disorder normalization group. They stay the same, and then you take a single sample, they stay the same, and then you continue perturbation and they jump. You have a reorganization and things like that. So I was thinking of this. Let's say glassy properties of this Bose glass phase. At the moment, there are very few characteristic glassy signatures. Rather on average quantities like infinite susceptibilities, yes, but more microscopic effects.
Okay, if you don't have any other question, we can thank everybody. And Gabriel will stay here for one more hour.